Hey guys, welcome to the homestead. I thought I'd come in here and do a video for you guys today. I'm on the road, so no fancy editing. I had a longtime supporter of the homestead get a hold of me and ask me some questions. And one of the questions he asked me about was comms and in terms of communications. And wanted to know, hey, listen, how are you set up for things like ham radio and communications, comms? If something were to happen, just societal breakdown or whatever. And I've had a ham license for a long time, and so I'm very familiar with comms. I have shortwave so that I can listen in on communications that happen around the world. I like having that shortwave radio, but I also have ham radios. And then the question was brought up to me, well, do you have that set up to use it? And the reality is, no, I don't. I mean, I know I have a license. I have a technician's license, something that allows me to operate on what's called a 2 meter. And for me, that's been fine. I can usually hear conversations that take place, a couple states away sometimes, depending on if the right weather conditions are in place. And so I can get some pretty good, distance with a 2 meter radio at my elevation. But the reality is, I don't play in that hobby world for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm just too busy. I have a million other things I'd rather put my time in on rather than a hobby that is not really a hobby for me. And so I have that equipment. I know how to use that equipment. I know how to set that equipment up and operate it and function it and repair it if I need to. I know how to set up an antenna. I have the equipment needed to put in place a larger antenna if I need to. I have antennas. I have all that knowledge and experience, but it's not something I play with on a regular basis because right now I just don't need it. I have that equipment if needed, but I don't use it. That's number one. Number two, having been in that world a little bit and having known a few people in that world, I know and understand that there are people in that hobby world who are very friendly and who will help you and take you under their wing and share knowledge with you and lead you into the areas you want to go when it comes to ham radio and that hobby. However, there are people in that world who do not. And they don't like it that you dabble into their world if you're just dabbling. They want you to be full bore, squared away into that world, and if you're just dabbling, and if you're just using it for the poop hitting the oscillator fan type moments, if that's all you're in it for, they don't like you. And so it's not a world that I want to get involved in unless I need to. And just dabbling into it, and there's no appeal there for me. That's just me. Maybe that's different for you. So, all that to say, communications. Communications are very important. Do you have the knowledge and equipment to operate communication radios if it came down to it? The reality is, making a radio a transceiver, meaning being able to send and receive messages, having that, it's actually pretty simple. I mean, you can really make these things out of coconuts. That whole Gilligan's Island thing, that's not that far-fetched. Radios are very, very simple to make. In fact, they have these little hobby groups where you can make radios out of Altoid cans. Leave a comment below if you've ever done that. I have a friend of mine who has done that. He makes them out of little Altoid cans. You can make them out of tin cans. You can make a radio out of almost everything. It's a very simple process. If you have a few simple, basic, bits of knowledge, you can make a radio. So if you have the knowledge, I think you should have the knowledge and equipment to be able to set up communications if it hits the fan. That starts with a ham radio license. Now, a lot of people say, Zach, what's the best way to study for my ham radio license? I get that question quite a bit. If you Google out there, there's a study guide called the No Nonsense Study Guide. The No Nonsense Ham Radio, I think, Technician's Level Study Guide. It's called the No Nonsense Study Guide. And what it is a PDF, basically. You can find it online if you just search for that. And it'll give you all the information you need, and all you need to do is read through it one time and you'll pass. You'll pass your test. Now, again, the hardcore hobbyists out there, they hate that thing because it doesn't give you any practical knowledge. You need to know the real nitty-gritty, the real ins and outs of ham radio. You don't need all that garbage. All you need to know is the basics. And you'll learn the rest through experience. But that's what I mean about some of these hardcore hobbyists out there. They want you full in. They want you to know all the technicals. I mean, there was people who had a conniption when they took away the Morse code requirement back in the day. I remember some people flipped their lid. But the reality was the hobby was dying, and if they didn't do something about it quick, it was going to be dead. So the reality is, find the no-nonsense study guide for ham radio. I think it's a technician level license. If you read through it once, maybe twice for sure, if you just read through it and comprehend basic things that what you're reading, even half of what you're reading, you're going to pass the test. Okay, that's all I did. That's what got me my license years ago. I read through that study guide. It's still available today. I think they've updated it a few times throughout the years. If you find the no-nonsense ham radio study guide, you can find it on Google. It's a PDF. If you just Google like no-nonsense ham radio PDF, you'll probably find it. Leave a comment below if you found it. You don't have to link it because YouTube might take the link away. But just let me know if you find it. Leave a comment below. Anyway, you get that no-nonsense study guide, you'll pass your test, you'll have a license, and then you can start playing around and get some equipment. I would recommend some 2-meter vehicle equipment, maybe some handheld equipment to start off with. It can be expensive. You can get the cheap barrel fangs or whatever they're called if you want to. ICOM's a really good brand. There's a lot of good brands out there. It's okay to start with the cheap stuff, but have some good high quality, higher end stuff too. Might be beneficial to get, you get what you pay for, is the old adage, right? You get what you pay for. Have a few of these pieces of equipment that you can set up, know how to set them up, run them on an inverter and some battery equipment, and be able to transmit and receive communications with people. So just so you have that knowledge and information to be able to use it. So all that CB equipment is good too. What else? And yeah, have a shortwave. Get a shortwave radio. Invest, spend, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks on a halfway decent shortwave radio. I think that's what they go for now. Maybe you can, it's been years since I bought mine. Maybe you can spend 100 bucks on a nice, really nice shortwave radio that allows you to listen in on communications that are going on, everywhere. So, okay. I hope that helped. Hope that was informative. I'm just putting a video out today because, you know what? That's a really good topic. I don't think I've covered it in a while. And it's something that people are asking about more and more as the world is becoming more and more unstable. We have Ukraine. And if China's really watching what happens with Ukraine, if Russia invades Ukraine and we don't do nothing except sanctions, China is going to have a real hard time not taking Taiwan. And who knows what'll happen there. But China's really watching to see how we handle this Ukraine thing. And if we don't do anything, if we're a bunch of pushovers, they will take Taiwan. Guaranteed. And then, you don't know what's going to happen. So it's good to have some secondary communications in the world. We have been blessed to live in the most richest, most secure country in the history of the world. But that's not going to last forever. It's not going to. History is a determining factor here. That never lasts forever. All right. See you next time in the homestead. Bye.